I remember the first time it happened as if it were carved into my skin. The sheets were cool beneath me, the familiar weight of my comforter pressed against my legs, and yet the man beside me was not my husband. His breath was hot against my ear, his hands traveled where only Mark's ever should have, and the sound of my own heartbeat was so loud it drowned out the silence of the house. I could not believe that in the very bed where I once whispered promises of forever to my husband, I was now giving myself to another man. The shame burned inside me, but so did the fire of desire. Every moment felt like a crime, and yet, I did not stop. I let the betrayal unfold in the one place that should have been sacred. Before I continue, I want to take a moment to appreciate everyone who has subscribed to this channel. Your support means everything, and to all the new and returning viewers who have not yet subscribed, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button because it serves as the fuel and energy that keeps powering this channel. Do not forget to share your thoughts in the comments immediately after this short hook intro. I want to hear your voice, your perspective, and your feelings about this story. My name is Claire. I am a 32-year-old American woman, living in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Virginia. I have been married to Mark for 8 years. Mark is a good man, steady, dependable, and deeply committed to me. He works long hours as a financial consultant, often traveling for days at a time. We met in college, and from the start, he made me feel safe in a way no one else ever had. But over the years, safety turned into routine, and routine into something I began to resent. I never wanted to admit it out loud, but I felt invisible in my own marriage. Mark provided everything, our home, our comfort, our security, but somewhere along the line, the laughter and passion disappeared. He would come home late, collapse on the couch, and talk about numbers and clients instead of me. I felt like furniture, necessary but unnoticed. And that was when Jake walked into my life. Jake was my co-worker at the marketing firm where I worked. He was everything Mark was not. Tall, broad-shouldered, with messy dark hair and a dangerous smile that always made me feel like he saw something no one else did. He had this way of looking at me, as if my words mattered, as if I were the most fascinating woman in the room. It started small, flirtations in the break room, lingering looks during meetings, text messages that were innocent at first but quickly grew bolder. I knew I should have stopped it. I knew I should have walked away the moment I felt that rush of adrenaline when my phone buzzed with his name. But I did not. I welcomed it. I let it feed the emptiness that had been growing inside me for years. The night it happened, Mark was out of town on a 3-day business trip. Jake knew. He asked if I wanted company, if I wanted to escape the loneliness. I said yes. I told myself I just wanted to talk, maybe share a glass of wine. But when he arrived at my door, standing there with that smirk, that reckless confidence, I knew deep down it would never stop at just talking. We drank, we laughed, and I let myself forget that I was married. I let myself believe I was just a woman wanted by a man who could not hide how much he desired me. When we finally crossed the line, it was not in some hotel room or secret hideaway. It was in my bedroom. Our bedroom. The bed where Mark and I slept every night, the bed where he once held me so close I thought nothing could come between us. Jake kissed me with an urgency that stripped away the years of loneliness. His hands on me felt like fire, and for the first time in a long time, I felt alive. I also felt sick, because every moan, every touch, every gasp echoed against the walls that held the memories of my marriage. It was wrong, and I knew it. But I could not stop myself. I chose the fire over the safety, even if it burned everything to ashes. When it was over, Jake lay beside me, his arm draped across my body. I stared at the ceiling, tears pooling in my eyes. I told myself it was just once, that I would bury it deep inside and never let it see the light of day. But deep down, I knew once would never be enough. The thrill was intoxicating, the danger addictive. I had crossed a line, and I could never go back. I spent the rest of the night twisting between guilt and satisfaction. Every creak of the house sounded like a scream of betrayal. I imagined Mark walking in, finding us there, the look of devastation on his face. The thought nearly made me sick, but at the same time, I buried my face into Jake's chest and let him pull me closer. I hated myself, and yet I wanted more. That was the beginning of the end. The morning after was the heaviest silence I had ever known. Jake was gone before the sun rose, leaving behind the faint scent of his cologne and the undeniable proof of what had happened between those walls. I stood at the edge of the bed, staring at the sheets, feeling my stomach twist. The bed looked the same, but I knew it was forever changed. I stripped the covers off, threw them in the washer, and scrubbed away at the fabric like I could erase my sin. But no matter how many times I washed them, I could not cleanse what had been done. Mark returned home that evening, his suitcase rolling across the hardwood floor, his tired smile lighting up the kitchen. He kissed my cheek like he always did, and I felt my skin flinch under his lips. I forced a smile, acted normal, but my heart pounded against my ribs with every glance he gave me. He sat on the couch, telling me about his meetings and clients, while I sat beside him, nodding, pretending to listen, when all I could hear was the echo of Jake's voice in my head. That was the first crack in the glass. Once I had broken the barrier, I could not unsee the fracture. Every look from Mark felt like suspicion, even when it was not. Every question he asked felt like an accusation. And worst of all, the bed that had once been a place of comfort now became my prison. Each night, as I lay next to my husband, I remembered the betrayal that had taken place beneath those same sheets. It was like a ghost lying between us, silent but suffocating. Jake did not stop. He messaged me every day, and I answered every time. His words were dangerous, but I craved them. He made me feel desired in ways Mark no longer did. The more I tried to pull away, the deeper I fell. He would tell me how he could not stop thinking about me, how he wanted to see me again. And I wanted it too. The guilt made me sick, but the longing was stronger. 2 weeks later, it happened again. Mark was on another trip, and Jake found his way back to my house. This time, there was no hesitation, no excuse. I let him in, I led him upstairs, and I laid down in the very place that symbolized my vows. The shame was still there, but it was weaker, overshadowed by the rush of danger. The bed had transformed from a sanctuary of marriage into a stage for betrayal. But secrets do not stay buried forever. The cracks began to show. Mark started to notice small changes. The sheets were always freshly washed when he came home, which was unusual because before I never cared to change them so often. My eyes darted away when he looked too closely. My phone never left my hand, tucked against my body as if I feared he would see something. He would ask if everything was all right, and I would nod too quickly, smile too tightly. I thought I was hiding it well, but I was not. One evening, Mark reached for me in bed. His touch was gentle, longing, but I froze. I could not give him what I had been giving another man. He pulled away, confusion etched on his face. "What is wrong, Claire?" he asked, his voice soft but sharp in its concern. I swallowed hard, forcing a smile, lying through my teeth. "Nothing. I am just tired." He nodded, but I saw the doubt in his eyes. That was the second crack in the glass. Days turned into weeks, and the guilt began to bleed into everything. I snapped at Mark over small things. I avoided his gaze during dinner. I spent more time on my phone, more time staying late at work, more time lying. The house that once felt safe now felt suffocating. And every time Jake touched me, I felt the pull of two worlds tearing me apart. The breaking point came one Saturday afternoon. Mark suggested we spend the day together, just us, no distractions. We drove to the park, had lunch at a cafe, walked hand in hand like we had in the early days. For a moment, I almost forgot. For a moment, I felt like maybe I could salvage what we had. But then my phone buzzed in my purse. Jake's name lit up the screen. Mark saw it. His eyes lingered a little too long, his jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He let it slide, but I knew in that instant the glass had shattered completely. That night, as I lay beside him in the same bed where all my sins lived, I could feel the distance growing into a canyon. Mark's body was turned away from mine, his breathing steady, but I knew he was not asleep. He was awake, thinking, piecing together the lies. And I lay there staring at the ceiling, knowing that the truth was no longer something I could bury. The cracks in the glass had spread too far. It was only a matter of time before everything shattered. The night it all came crashing down was ordinary at first. Mark was supposed to be gone for the weekend. He told me he had a client meeting 2 states away, and he would be back late Sunday night. I remember feeling relief wash over me, because it meant Jake could come over without the suffocating anxiety of being caught. When I messaged Jake, he did not hesitate. By evening, he was at my door again, smiling with that reckless hunger that always pulled me back. I let him in, knowing full well that I was crossing the line deeper than ever before. My heart should have been screaming to stop, but it was silent, drowned out by the rush of adrenaline and desire. We did not waste time. I led him upstairs, back into the very heart of my marriage. As he held me, as his hands explored me, I told myself this was the last time, that I would end it after this. But that lie had been whispered to myself before, and it never held true. Then the front door opened. At first, I thought I was imagining it. But then I heard the familiar thud of Mark's suitcase against the hallway floor. My body froze. Jake pulled away, his eyes wide, the reality of our sin sinking in. My husband was home. Claire. Mark's voice called from downstairs. I am back early. My blood ran cold. Jake grabbed his shirt, his face pale. I whispered for him to stay quiet, to wait, but it was too late. Mark's footsteps climbed the stairs, steady, unhurried, like he already knew what he was about to find. The bedroom door opened. Mark stood there, his face unreadable, his eyes fixed on me and the half-dressed man standing by our bed. The silence in that moment was louder than any scream. His eyes did not dart around the room, they landed directly on the bed, the sheets we had shared, the place he thought was ours alone. Jake mumbled something about leaving, but Mark did not even acknowledge him. He simply stepped aside, his eyes locked on mine, and let him walk past. The sound of Jake's footsteps down the stairs and out the door felt like a death sentence. Then the real storm began. Here. Mark's voice broke, the calmness shattering. In our bed, Claire. I opened my mouth, but no words came. My lips trembled, my throat ached, but all I could do was cry. This is where I sleep. This is where I dream with you. This is where I thought we were safe. His voice cracked, his hands trembling as he pointed to the sheets. And you brought him here? Tears streamed down my face, but no apology could mend the wound. I am sorry, I whispered, though the words sounded pitiful against the enormity of what I had done. Mark's eyes filled with tears, but there was no softness in them, only devastation and rage. You destroyed everything, Claire. Not just us. You destroyed me. He grabbed his suitcase, threw it open, and began tossing his clothes into it. The sound of zippers, the thud of drawers slamming, it was all too real. I reached for him, begged him to stop, but he pulled away as if my touch burned him. Do not touch me, he said, his voice sharp like glass. You gave that to him. Not me. His words cut deeper than any blade. By midnight, the bed that had once held us together became the symbol that tore us apart. Mark walked out of the house with his suitcase in hand, his wedding ring left on the nightstand. The door slammed, and with it, every ounce of security I had ever known vanished. In the days that followed, the silence was unbearable. I wandered through the house, haunted by memories of what once was. Every corner, every photo, every echo of Mark's laughter reminded me of the man I had betrayed. The bed remained, stripped bare, a monument of shame I could not bear to sleep in. I moved to the couch, too broken to face what I had done. Friends whispered when they heard the truth. Family turned cold. And Jake? He vanished, leaving me alone with the wreckage. He was never meant to stay. He was only ever the fire that consumed what I had built. I lost my husband, my marriage, and the trust that had once made me whole. There was no forgiveness, no second chance. Only regret. The bed was no longer a bed. It was a grave. A grave for my vows, for my marriage, and for the woman I once was. And that was how my story ended, not with reconciliation, but with the unbearable weight of knowing I had destroyed the only man who truly loved me, in the very place he thought he was safe.